The moment my father burst into the living room and saw me kissing Roman, my heart stopped dead in my chest. What I never expected was the calm way he demanded I end everything or lose the family name forever. I pulled away from Roman, feeling the blood drain from my face as my dad stood there in his tailored suit. His eyes were cold and steady like the Texas sky before a storm that changes everything in its path. Roman squeezed my hand once, then stepped back, giving me space while my father crossed his arms, waiting. We had been so careful for months, hiding our love in quiet moments away from prying eyes. Now the secret was out, and the weight of it crushed the air right out of the room. My father spoke again, his voice low and final, as if the decision had already been made for me. He reminded me of the family business the oil empire built over generations in Austin, Texas. A major merger was on the table with Cole Harlan, the powerful tycoon who demanded a stable image. My father said the board would never accept a gay son in line for leadership without a proper match. He gave me 24 hours to break it off with Roman or watch the inheritance and my future vanish. I stood there frozen between the man I loved and the family that had shaped my entire life. Roman stayed silent, his dark eyes full of pain, but he nodded slightly, understanding the impossible spot I was in. Later that night, we met in secret at our favorite spot by the Colorado River under the stars. The water flowed gently while I poured out my fears about disappointing everyone who raised me. Roman listened without interrupting, his hand resting lightly on my knee, offering quiet strength. He told me he understood family pressure because his own mother was fighting cancer and needed support. We held each other tightly, promising that love like ours could survive even the hardest tests ahead. The next morning, I met with my parents in the grand dining room of our family estate. My mother avoided my eyes while my father laid out the plan involving Cole Harlan directly. They wanted me to attend a business dinner the following week to start building the right connections. I argued that my happiness mattered more than any merger, but their faces showed no room for debate. Days blurred into a tense routine where I balanced secret calls with Roman and family obligations. Each conversation with him felt like a lifeline, yet the pressure from home kept building higher. My sister even pulled me aside one afternoon, whispering that the family was serious about the ultimatum. She said our father had already spoken to lawyers about changing the trust if I refused to comply. I spent hours alone in my room staring at old photos of me and Roman from happier times. The laughter in those pictures now felt like a distant dream slipping further away with every passing day. Roman suggested we take a short trip to the hill country to clear our heads and talk things through. We drove out early one Saturday, the truck windows down and country music playing softly on the radio. For a few precious hours, the world felt normal again, with just us two against the open road. We hiked a quiet trail, stopping at a scenic overlook where the Texas landscape stretched endlessly below. Roman turned to me, his voice steady, as he said he would stand by whatever choice I ultimately made. But deep down I knew the choice was tearing me apart between loyalty and the love we shared. Back home, the dinner with Cole Harlan loomed like a storm cloud ready to break over my life. My father introduced us at the upscale steakhouse downtown, making it clear what role I was expected to play. Cole was tall and confident, with a firm handshake and sharp eyes that seemed to read every hesitation. He talked business and future plans while I nodded along, feeling Roman's absence like a physical ache. Later that evening, I texted Roman from the car, confessing how lost and trapped I felt inside. His reply came quickly, full of reassurance, yet I could sense the strain creeping into his words too. The pressure kept mounting as my family scheduled more meetings and subtly cut off my usual freedoms. I began to wonder if love could truly conquer the expectations that had defined me for so long. Every night I lay awake, replaying the kiss my father had witnessed and the ultimatum that followed. Roman remained my anchor through late-night calls where we shared dreams of a life without secrets. But the reality of the merger and my family's unyielding stance made those dreams feel increasingly fragile. I knew a painful decision was coming, and it would test everything we had built together so far. Weeks passed, and the tension in our home grew thicker than the humid Austin summer air outside. My mother tried to reason with me over coffee one morning, her voice soft but insistent on family duty. She reminded me of all the sacrifices they had made to give me every opportunity in life. I listened quietly, my coffee growing cold as guilt mixed with the anger rising in my chest. Roman and I continued meeting in hidden places, always careful now that eyes were watching us closely. One evening we sat on a park bench near the university where he taught literature to eager students. He spoke about his mother's latest treatment and how the medical bills were piling up faster than expected. I offered to help financially, but he shook his head saying he could never accept that kind of support. Our conversation turned deeper as we discussed the impossible choice my family had placed before me. Roman held my hand tightly, his touch warm and familiar against the chill of uncertainty closing in. He told me stories from his childhood that revealed how much family meant to him despite everything. I shared my own memories of growing up in the shadow of the family empire and its heavy expectations. For a brief moment the world faded away and it was just us two connected by honest words. But the next day my father called me into his office at the company headquarters downtown. He slid a folder across the desk containing details of the merger and the role Cole Harlan expected. The document outlined social events and public appearances that would solidify the business alliance perfectly. My father warned that refusal would mean being cut off from every financial and social tie I had. I left the meeting feeling numb and drove straight to Roman's small apartment on the city edge. We sat on his worn couch talking for hours until the city lights flickered on outside the window. Roman listened patiently as I vented about the pressure and the fear of losing my entire world. He suggested we take things one day at a time and focus on the love that still burned brightly. Yet I could see the worry lines forming on his forehead whenever the topic of my family arose. The following weekend we attended a low-key barbecue at a friend's house, trying to feel normal again. Laughter filled the backyard while Roman and I stole glances that spoke volumes without a single word. But even there the weight of my secret life followed me like an unwelcome shadow I could not shake. Monday morning brought another surprise when my sister showed me an invitation to a formal gala. Cole Harlan would be the guest of honor and my presence was non-negotiable according to our father. I called Roman right after reading the elegant card, my voice cracking with frustration and despair. He calmed me down with gentle words, promising we would find a way through the gathering storm. The days leading up to the gala dragged on with family rehearsals on proper behavior and conversation topics. My mother picked out a sharp suit for me while my father drilled me on business talking points. Inside, I felt like a puppet being pulled in directions that went against every feeling in my heart. Roman sent encouraging texts throughout the week, reminding me of the strength we drew from each other. On the night of the gala, the mansion ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers and live music. Cole Harlan approached me with a confident smile, discussing future plans as if our paths were already set. I smiled politely through the evening, all while my thoughts drifted constantly back to Roman waiting at home. After the event, I slipped away early, driving through the quiet streets with a heavy heart full of conflict. Roman met me at our secret spot by the river where we talked until the early morning hours. He sensed my turmoil and reassured me that true love would guide us no matter the obstacles ahead. But the family pressure was reaching a breaking point and I knew a confrontation was inevitable soon. The next morning, my father summoned the whole family for an emergency meeting in the study. He announced that the merger papers were nearly ready and my role in the public image was critical. My mother nodded in agreement while my sister looked at me with a mix of sympathy and worry. I finally spoke up, my voice stronger than I expected as I defended the life I wanted to live. The argument escalated quickly with raised voices and accusations flying across the polished oak table. My father reminded me of the ultimatum, once more, his face reddening with controlled anger and disappointment. I stormed out of the room, needing air and space to process the chaos swirling inside my mind. Roman called me later that afternoon, his tone calm yet filled with the same uncertainty I felt. We agreed to meet that evening to discuss our future without the constant interference from my family. The conversation that night was raw and honest, exposing fears we had both been holding back for weeks. Roman admitted the strain was affecting his work and his mother's health weighed heavily on his decisions. I confessed my deep love for him and the terror of choosing between him and the only family I knew. Tears welled in both our eyes as we clung to each other under the dim glow of a street lamp. The painful choice loomed larger than ever, forcing me to confront what I truly valued most in life. The climax arrived sooner than I anticipated during a tense family dinner the following Sunday evening. My father raised his glass to toast the upcoming merger, making it clear my compliance was expected immediately. I set my fork down and looked him straight in the eye, refusing to play along any longer. The words poured out as I declared my love for Roman and my right to live authentically. My mother gasped while my sister stared at her plate in uncomfortable silence around the table. My father's face hardened as he repeated the threat of disinheritance and complete family cutoff. At that exact moment, the doorbell rang and Roman stood on the porch, having arrived unexpectedly. He had come to support me but walked straight into the heated argument unfolding in the dining room. My father demanded he leave at once, but Roman stood firm, his voice steady and respectful yet resolute. He told my family that he loved me deeply and would never stand in the way of my happiness. Then he turned to me with eyes full of sorrow and said the choice should never be this hard for anyone. Roman explained calmly that he was stepping back to give me the freedom to decide without pressure from him. I reached for his arm, begging him to stay, but he gently pulled away with a heartbreaking smile. He walked out into the night, leaving me stunned and the dining room completely silent in his wake. My father nodded approvingly, as if the problem had solved itself in the most convenient way possible. I chased after Roman into the driveway, but he was already in his car, driving away without looking back. The days that followed blurred into a haze of regret and loneliness that consumed every waking hour. I avoided family gatherings and threw myself into work at the company, trying to numb the pain inside. Cole Harlan called several times, suggesting lunch meetings to discuss our supposed future together in business. I attended one out of obligation, but every word felt hollow compared to the love I had lost with Roman. Nights were the hardest when memories of our shared moments flooded back without mercy or warning. One afternoon, I received a short message from Roman saying he needed time and space to heal properly. The words stung deeply, yet I respected his decision even as it tore another piece from my heart. My sister noticed my withdrawal and pulled me aside one evening, offering a listening ear without judgment. She confessed that the family pressure had gone too far, and she worried about the toll it was taking on me. We talked for hours about loyalty, duty, and the cost of living a life that was not truly mine. Her words planted seeds of doubt about the path my parents had chosen for the entire family legacy. Meanwhile, my father continued pushing the merger forward, scheduling more events with Cole Harlan involved. I went through the motions, smiling for photos and nodding at plans that meant nothing to me anymore. Inside, I felt empty and adrift, wondering if sacrificing love had been the right decision after all. Weeks turned into a month, and the ache of Roman's absence only grew sharper with each passing day. I began researching ways to contact him again, hoping for any sign that he might still care. Then came the twist that shattered everything I thought I understood about the situation from the start. A confidential email arrived from one of my father's former business associates with startling revelations attached. The documents showed proof that my family had quietly threatened Roman's teaching career and his mother's care. They had contacted the school board with hints of inappropriate conduct unless he agreed to step away from me. Medical providers had also received subtle warnings about insurance coverage tied to family influence in Texas. Roman had chosen to leave voluntarily to protect his mother and his livelihood from further damage. The realization hit me like a freight train, leaving me breathless and furious at the manipulation involved. I confronted my father in his home office, slamming the printed evidence down on his mahogany desk. He did not deny the actions, instead justifying them as necessary to preserve the family's future and reputation. My mother stood nearby, her face pale, as the truth of their interference finally came fully into the light. Anger surged through me hotter than any Texas summer as I demanded they stop controlling my life completely. I told them I was done playing their games and would choose my own path starting immediately that day. My father warned of consequences, but for the first time his threats fell on deaf ears in the room. I walked out feeling a strange sense of liberation mixed with the urgent need to find Roman again. The search began that very evening with calls to mutual friends and visits to places we once loved. No one had recent information, but I refused to give up, determined to make things right at last. Driving through the familiar streets of Austin, I replayed every moment we had shared over the past year. Roman's kindness, his laughter, and the way he made even ordinary days feel extraordinary came rushing back. I stopped at his apartment building only to learn from a neighbor that he had moved out 2 weeks earlier. The new address was listed as a small town about an hour north where his mother was receiving treatment. I made the drive with my heart pounding harder with every mile that brought me closer to the truth. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty when I arrived under a sky painted with soft evening hues. Inside I found Roman sitting beside his mother's bed reading quietly from a worn paperback novel. He looked up in surprise, his eyes widening as recognition and a flood of emotions crossed his face. We stepped into the hallway for privacy, where words tumbled out in a rush of apologies and explanations. I told him everything I had discovered about the threats and how deeply sorry I was for not seeing sooner. Roman listened quietly, his expression softening as he admitted the pain of walking away had nearly broken him. He explained that protecting his mother had been his only choice in the face of such ruthless pressure. We embraced tightly in the sterile hospital corridor, letting years of unspoken fears finally melt away together. His mother called out from the room, sensing the shift, and invited me inside with a warm, tired smile. She thanked me for coming and shared stories about Roman that made us both laugh through misty eyes. In that moment, healing began, not with grand gestures but with honest conversation and renewed hope. Over the following weeks, I distanced myself from the family business while still maintaining some contact. My sister supported the decision and even helped mediate conversations that slowly opened small doors for dialogue. Cole Harlan was understanding when I explained the situation, and the merger proceeded without my personal involvement. Roman and I rebuilt our connection slowly through weekend visits and long talks under open Texas skies. His mother's health improved steadily, giving us all reasons to celebrate the small victories along the way. We found a modest house together near the university where Roman continued teaching with renewed passion. Life settled into a rhythm of quiet joys and mutual support that felt more real than any inheritance ever could. My father eventually reached out with a cautious olive branch, though the wounds would take time to fully mend. I accepted the gesture, knowing that true family grows through understanding rather than control or ultimatums. Ashton and Roman became partners in every sense, building a future defined by love and hard-earned freedom. The journey had been painful and filled with unexpected turns, yet it led us exactly where we belonged. Looking back now, I see how one shocking moment reshaped everything in ways no one could have predicted. Love found its way through the chaos, proving stronger than the forces that tried to tear it apart forever. True or false? Family loyalty should always come before personal happiness when love is on the line.